So yeah, I got that dreaded call within the last 13 years. The call, we're sorry, but we're going into a different direction and your position is no longer needed. So yeah, if you ever got let go from a job in your life, the feeling, what the F, right? You worked your ass off. You went over and above and you were cut. One of those times came actually on my husband's birthday. So that wasn't a fun conversation. So, hey, happy birthday. Guess what? Yeah, that. In all this time though, I was always working on something on the side. I was always building a business, whether it was the software that I was developing, it was specifically for the travel industry, or I was doing freelance consulting on the side, always working before my full-time job. And I was always thinking about, when do I get to jump in 100% to running my own business? That feeling initially was always, this sucks. But then I quickly turned to, well, I got laid off. Now I get to spend 100% of my time getting this consulting thing to actually work. And depending on your situation, if you have a partner or a spouse who can pay all the bills, that's great, but most can't. So if you find yourself in this situation, here's my best advice based on my own experiences, many experiences. And so I want to go into those with you. Hopefully you can find this helpful. Hopefully you can apply some or all of these tips in your current situation. And regardless, there is one thing I can definitely tell you out of all these times that I have been let go, for definitely never from performance, but I've been let go. One thing I can always safely say is the next thing that happened was always better than the thing I was in before. It's one of those, everything always works out and everything does manage to figure itself out. So I'm going to get into those steps with you right now. All right. Now, since I've been through this a few times, I'm going to share my best advice and based on my own experiences. So if you're out of work right now and you do not have any way to pay your bills, that should be your first priority. What's the fastest path to cash right now? If it's working at Home Depot or driving an Uber or finding a new corporate job, do that first. Honestly, that's just going to save you so much from an emotional and psychological standpoint. Even if it is that you ultimately want to get into your own business and you maybe don't even have any freelancing work right now, that should be your first priority. If you're in a job, but you still want to be doing your own thing, do not quit until and unless you have at least 8+ months of finances covered. And I would add 3 months to that as a buffer, because it will take you time from what should I be selling to how do I get leads to speak with and then paying clients. So whatever happens, almost never, except for the last time I got laid off, I had a connection from the search marketing software industry. They already knew me well from the time that I worked at Accenture. I was promoting their software there with a number of clients. So one of my first paying clients within the first year was StubHub. And that gave me the ability to keep going to where I am today. But that almost never happens. So here's what you can do to get things going. Take some time to really think your business through. I remember at one point between, I think it was the second and third layoff, I did take a minute and just really hit the pause on whatever I was doing in my business. And at that time, and this was 2017, I actually hit the pause button and said, you know what is it that I really want to be doing? What should I be doing? At the time, I thought doing something in YouTube would be a great idea. And hindsight, I should have kept up with it. I did seriously consider that, but then I decided to go back to consulting roots. So it did give me some time, 4 to 8 weeks or so, that I just decided I am going to not rush into anything, but this should be well thought out. And all of your business plans should be well thought out. You should really take a minute and just think seriously about what it is that you want to do, but really, who can you help? It always comes down to your audience. Who is it that you can help? How can you help them? That's what you should really be doing, is thinking about that person or group, organization, whatever. And I'm not talking about a niche in whether it is chiropractic or, the plumbing industry. That can come later, but it's really that person that that you can help. So think about that person, that group or business. What do they really need help with the most? That combined with what you do well, that's where it's awesome. Maybe you learned how to create AI agents. Great. Not many people know what that is or why they would even need you to build them. So your first task is to help whoever it is you're building this for. You're going to help them become educated on why this is going to help them. And that's what you're going to do. So you've got to put some educational stuff out there of what the value that this could bring to their business. Get a few clients. You might also have to sell it well under what you would normally charge too. If you can get away with a profit margin of 40% or better, and you have a few clients, now you're well on your way. So here's how not to find clients. Do not email blast them in your Facebook feed, because let's face it, who's actually even getting your organic feed there anyway? Or do not buy a list from some list broker. I actually recently spoke to a client a few weeks back who asked me, would it be a good idea to buy an email list? Because he wanted to go about finding new clients through cold emailing, which is a great, certainly, and I'm going to touch on that in another video because I've had a lot of success with cold emailing. And so what I would say is, yes, that's good, but do not buy a list from a broker. That's the worst thing you can do and a waste of time and money. I will make a recommendation because I think these guys have some of the best and smartest insight into this. But if you check out Alex Hormozy, and also Russell Brunson, both of them have a ton of ideas about getting your first clients. I mean, even if you go to their YouTube channels and just like search for playlists that can kind of help with that, they have a lot of really good, smart insight. Once you do have a client, you absolutely, positively must do your absolute best work. You have to over deliver. You've got to make sure you answer every email question they have. You schedule time each month to speak with them and live on a Zoom call. Get in front of them. That is the fastest way to lose a client, is when you just email them a report and they never hear from you. And they wonder, what did I ever get for that $1,000 that I paid that freelancer? And I can tell you how many times I have actually heard that directly from people who have said to me, I worked with such and such an SEO agency or website design development, and they did, I don't know what for me, but I paid them. So you really need to get in front of them. And I'm not saying you need to spend an hour every week. Unless it's a website development project, you should have some stand-up calls. Absolutely. But if this is something like a digital marketing type of a situation, or if you're consulting on branding or design or something like that, definitely understand if you were to work in-house for somebody, how often would you be meeting with your boss? That's kind of like the best gauge, I would say. So if you would be meeting with them, every other week or once a month, you come up with a performance report or something, do that. Get on a live or a Google Meet and present that to them. They need to know what they're paying for, and they have that right to understand what it is that they're paying for. So do not email them a summary of the work that you finished. That, as I said, is the fastest way to end that relationship. And here's another one. Another big mistake I have made, and I want you to avoid, is not asking for a review. Always, always ask for an offboarding meeting when you've completed the work for a client. And this is only assuming they were happy with it and they loved what you did. Ask to meet with them and ask them how things went. And what ideally you should do is record that call so that you can use this for future testimonials. Preferably if you can do a video testimonial, that can do really well. So you definitely want to try and get some of those video reviews. Every happy client should be thrilled to do this. I've had clients who asked me how many places they could comment on how great the experience was that when they worked with me. And so they went to Google reviews. They went to my LinkedIn profile. And they asked me where else could they go. So that was sufficient for me. I'm happy to have those, and you should be too. Always, always. Do not make the mistake of missing this one, because it is social proof that is very important, and it will absolutely help your business. And yes, you should definitely have Google reviews, because Google will let you know many times people have gone to look at your Google business profile and actually found out that, you do really great work. If you're in a day job and you want to build your business, you have to find at least 1 hour a day, every day, to really devote to doing that work. Now, I will caveat it with this. If you're working from home on your day job and you want to be working on your business, I used to get up at like 5 a.m. and just work a couple hours before my 9 to 5. It's the easiest thing to do, especially if you can get up early in the morning. If you're more of a late night person, you know what? Finish up the workday and then have dinner and then just get back into it. Planning that special time out to devote to your work is really important. As I say, at least 1 hour a day is really good. You can get a lot done in 1 hour. And maybe you can even use your lunch hour as well, or to use that time to make a sales call or something. What you do not want to do, though, is you should not be taking sales calls during your 9 to 5 day job. And you really should be attentive to the work that you do have and put in the effort at that day job. And one of the things that I really appreciated about my day jobs was that I was able to use some of that income to fund my business. And so I was very appreciative to have that day job, because it was a regular paycheck coming in every 2 weeks that I knew I could count on and pay my bills. Well, count on until I got laid off, but you understand. You can use some of that money to fund your business. And so then what you should be doing is planning out that next 90 days. If you can plan out just 90 days at a time, focus on one thing. And it could be building an audience or your email list. It could be posting on LinkedIn, and your professional point of view. It could be building a podcast, or just jumping onto YouTube and just starting to share your opinion. And I do understand, though, if you're working a corporate job, you do not want your LinkedIn profile to be all about your side hustle. I get that, because even though you have to understand, HR is likely not going to be checking out your LinkedIn profile to see what you're doing, but maybe your boss or people that you work with are. So maybe you just want to use a different platform for that purpose. Decide what you want to focus your time on. And as I said, each day, devote an hour, whether it's nights or weekends. I would always take a long weekend sometimes. I would put in PTO on a Friday and Monday, and I would just work straight through. Bonus, if you work from home in your day job, as I mentioned, get up. You could easily do 1 or 2 hours before your 9 to 5 starts. Make sure you find a quiet space in your home. It doesn't need to be a huge space, but it needs to be a dedicated space to getting your work done. Just know there's always a way if you're determined to getting this business to work. Focus. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Don't ever give up. The only way you do fail is when you quit. And you got to ignore the haters. You got to forget anyone who doesn't get what you're trying to do, because there will be plenty of those people. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you think it matters, and that's why you're doing this. Understand what your why is. Understand why you're doing this every single day, and just have fun with it too. This should be something fun that you're exploring, you're testing out. It will become successful. So get out there, dust yourself off from getting fired or laid off. As I said, it's happened to me 3 times. And for the last time, I decided to say, I'm done. I've honestly had enough. I have plenty of knowledge and experience where I have been helping lots of my own clients. And I'm hoping that this, as I mentioned, this channel here is for you. I'm hoping that this can be the encouragement for you to get going if either you found yourself laid off or if you're in your day job and you're just wanting to get started into some kind of a business, that this should be the impetus to say, you can do it too. Just get up and do it. Again, I'm hoping you found this helpful. Until next time, if you liked this video, hit the subscribe button. I'd love your support. And on the next one, I'm going to get into some sales stuff because some of you who are doing some sales stuff, especially if you're a consultant, there's a lot of stuff I want to share with you. So I'm going to be getting into it. Until next time,